Okay, well, here's my very first time going live in Facebook. So, if you could help me out and leave a comment that you're here, that you can see me, that would be awesome because I'm still new to this. So, I am assuming since I see live that I am doing good. Um, Anyhow, so I'm going to give a moment or two here while I get things figured out and see if anybody jumps on at the same time. Um, I'm going to be waiting here a second. Hey, I've got it here. Cool beans. I can see that the the caption is on, which I was hoping for that. So now I'll just continue on and hope and pray that somebody shows. And if nobody does, you can catch me on the replay. So if you're live, hashtag live. If you're here on the replay, hashtag replay. And I'll start with hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be. So happy that you can join me today and hear what I'm about to share with you. Um, I'm known as the Fibromyalgia Recovery Specialist. How did this come about? Well, it came because I had to work on getting um, from a wheelchair to fully functional and walking. So I'm going to share my journey real quick. I didn't always have fibromyalgia. In fact, I started out with a very nice and generalized life. Um, but by the time I got into my high school years, I was raised on a very strict rules of being in when the streetlights were on. I couldn't go out and do things like common and so on. Um, anyhow, uh, so I was put into human trafficking and then arranged marriage, and it was very harsh. Before that, I was declared neurodivergent. Basically, I have ADHD as well as some mental health issues. And I do apologize. I did not realize that my system has issues with streaming. So, my apologies in advance. Anyhow, so the issues of human trafficking and arranged marriage, I did not realize how much I was affected. Now, before this, I had a inner voice saying, no, stay away from this. I had a statement of moving forward and just doing whatever I was told. Don't question, just keep moving forward. Uh, so I accepted this. The fact that I didn't want those things, I wanted to be in theater, I wanted to be acting, and I wanted to be in productions. And I was told I was living in a never never land and that to get over it. By the time I got to high school, I started to study business administration and management. Go figure, totally different. But I still have the desire to be in television, to be hosting, and so on. But that's the desires I have of my heart now. What I didn't realize through this whole process is that I would go through a lot of chaos. I was pushed several times to do things that I didn't want to do, and I knew in my heart that it was not safe. But I was told that you honor your husband no matter what he does, what he says. So I did those things that I was told to do. It was very abusive, and there was rape involved. And I got away from him several times, but finally the courts came in and said, no, this is done, this is over. Unfortunately, because of his lies, because of his deception, he told them that I was gone from the children for 2.5 years. I wasn't. I was gone for 11 months, and 2 of those 11 months I was pregnant with the rape child. So, needless to say, they listened to him because I was not in proper setting, and therefore they turned around and gave him full custody, and then at first said, no, you don't have to take care of any of the costs. We'll take care of that. You just go on your way and we'll deal with things. 2 years later, they declared me needing to go on ahead and pay for him taking care of the kids. Basically pay for his lies, his deception, and everything else. Now, the attorneys told me, you can't think that way. But I ended up. But that by the time that it was all settled in, the base of the fibromyalgia, the base of the chronic pain, the base of the fatigue had set in. You might ask how. And that was because the day that they took the children and gave them to a family member who in turn called him into the situation. That was in April of 1997. And I would think it was actually 1998. I have it on paperwork. Anyhow, they took the kids and they told me, no, stay away. You can't come near the kids. As though I was going to harm my kids. And from this, I ended up breaking down, saying they just took my kids and gave them back to their abuser. Broke down for 3 hours. The neighbors heard the commotion and the challenge involved. And they came over and tried to comfort. And there was no consoling. At first, I thought it was a grand mal seizure. But as I shared with my doctors, they said, no, you're not describing a grand mal seizure at all. And my primary now has stated that, no, you actually are defining a massive nervous breakdown. And also the point of when you started having fibromyalgia. It was pain, it was fatigue. I remember being completely exhausted after everything. I remember I couldn't function. I remember shaking uncontrollably, my nerves just on end. I couldn't be touched, I couldn't be consoled or anything. And I remember that so distinctly to this day. And that is why I'm able to share with the doctors so that they can understand, oh, this is exactly when it happened. I needed to know from my own mental standpoint that this is where everything happened. This is what is going on. Simply because that was the beginning of my acceptance. Okay, this is what happened. It doesn't mean that I'm staying here. I just need to accept the trigger, the stressor, the challenges, why I wasn't being able to sleep, why I wasn't being able to rest, why I wasn't being able to get my schedule and my life back together again. That was the first step for me. And I have learned since that it's not just me. Most people who have chronic pain, chronic fatigue, most people who have these challenges, they have to know that they have to acknowledge that very beginning point to begin the healing process. Now, for some people, it can be like right away. In other people, not so much. And in my case, it definitely was not so much. Because ensued, that was also the beginning of PTSD and chronic compound PTSD. So I dealt with all of these things a little bit. It kept snowballing, and I couldn't understand why it was snowballing until 20 plus years later. Because I went to my ex, of all people, I should not have gone to him, but I did. And he said, well, it's because of your mental health that you lost the kids. And later on, in another relationship, I was working on taking care of some other kids, which was very challenging for me. But I did it anyways. And I found out from this person who worked for child services, which is people who took the kids the way they did, and it happened to be the exact same person that dealt with my kids. I said, hold it just a second, this is actually my perfect opportunity. And she didn't understand. I said, I know it's been a while, but why did I actually lose my children? Was it because of mental health? And she says, no, it wasn't because of mental health. It was because of how long you left. You left your kids. You left them in neglect. Well, can't leave children in neglect when you don't leave them for the length of time that he said, I could understand for 2.5 years, but it was only 11 months. But they were listening to him versus me, and it was because of the attorneys that they listened to him over me. Long story. But this is about fibromyalgia, not so much that. So I was able to accept, once she told me, I was able to accept, okay, this is the reason why I accept this. Doesn't mean I like it, just means I accept it, because it was yet another lie that I had been told by this man, that I was told to respond, to respect, to honor, and everything else, which there was only one-sided honor. Anyhow, so after I learned all of this, of course, the kids didn't come to work. It was, long story short, that didn't work out. So moving on, and I was forced to work to pay this debt. So I did the work for that, and I managed through, but not before 2009. My whole entire side went out. It just completely crashed out. I couldn't understand why. And when I saw my therapist, they said, well, it's obvious. Well, to them it was obvious. To me, it was not so much. They said, you have been carrying all this weight of the children, dealing with their loss, dealing with the abuse, dealing with all of the other things. You've been dealing with all of this, but you haven't really released it. I was like, yeah, I have. No, you haven't, because your body gave out. So why? Now, it did take me some time to realize the why, because it was still following me, but in a different aspect. So I kept going with things, and they said, we can help you to maintain. We can help you to keep functioning, but that's all you'll be doing is functioning. I accepted this. It's not what I liked, but I accepted it as it was being told to me. So I kept moving forward with being told, no, you're going to function if you choose to. You do not have to be in a wheelchair as you have been. You can keep functioning and moving forward. So I did. I was declaring. There was a point where I asked the doctor to write me a note to state that I was permanently attached to a wheelchair. And he came in close to me and he said, do you want to be permanently attached to a wheelchair? No, I declared, absolutely not. He said, well, then you don't have to. There's no reason why you have to be. You haven't been confined to it. Only by your mental state you've been confined to it, because your body's giving out on you. Now, if you desire to get out, let's start moving forward. But it's going to require a lot of work on your part. I realize now what he meant then. By the way, that was 14 years ago. Back in 2009, I almost gave up on life. But he said counseling, therapy, of all kinds, and doctor's visits. And I did all of that. And I can honestly say that it took a lot of work. In the process, I became a widow twice over within 10-year span. That's okay, because I'm still alive to talk about it, and I'm still strong enough to say, you know what, it doesn't matter, because I'm still here and I want to share, encourage other women to listen to what your gut says. Listen to what your internal heart says. If you desire something, then do it. Don't make excuses for it, and don't say, "Oh, my mom and dad," or "No, my husband," or "No, my my wife," or "No, my family, my coworkers." None of it. You need to do what's right for you, not for them. And if your heart says something, you need to listen to it, because it's usually guiding you to do something that is innate. So, continuing forward, I have learned since then a lot about myself. By 2013, no, not 2013, I actually was getting things down pat. I realized I could use a service dog. By 2013, by 2014, I had my first service dog. By 2018, my service dog was getting ill, and my late husband was also ill, and made a request for having a minister by his side to pray with him. So I became an ordained minister for prayer, for scripture reading, for just the basics, because I've done ministry work, so I figured that's not a problem. I can do that. He passed in January of 19, and at that point I knew that I had become a minister for him in prayer, but this time I needed to be a minister for me. So on top of that, I went and researched about life coaching. Now mind you, life coaching at this point had never entered the picture. Never entered the picture. Being a public speaker, yeah, definitely being a public speaker. But life coaching, nah. Until I reviewed what is a life coach. I just about laughed at myself. I have been trained, raised to be a life coach. Wow. So I am a certified life coach as well. I decided to heck with it. I'm just going to get certified. So in 18, I became an ordained minister. In 19, became a certified life coach. And since then, I've built on a podcast. And the podcast is so that I can tell my stories, fibromyalgia recovery, and to reach out to others with fibromyalgia and chronic pain and chronic fatigue, and share their stories, especially women. My primary target is for women, to share their stories and business. Because with chronic pain and chronic fatigue, the whole point is to be able to do something accommodating the chronic pain and chronic fatigue. And that means working on your own schedule, which means you're your own boss. You have to be. So that's become my primary thing, is to help women to become their own boss when they're dealing with chronic pain and chronic fatigue. So in the process of all of this, I had a challenge, because I knew my sister needed a kidney, so I donated a kidney back in 2001. And I don't talk about it much, but I thought I'd throw it out there because it just seems like it fits in. Because my ex, the man who put me through this whole ordeal, told me I couldn't donate it. He said, "No, you will not donate this kidney." I wasn't with him, thank God. I was with my first late husband, and he knew that I needed to do that for my sister, because there was nobody else, and he was a very firm believer in respect for family. So he said, yes, do that. Now, this child support order, which is the last string that was holding me from finalizing everything, from feeling free and released, is taken care of in 2018. In November 2018. I remember it distinctly because my late husband, my second late husband, he asked me, "Where are we at with the child support?" And I looked it up, and it was 0. And we were both in tears, in overjoy, because it was the release of the stress that had held me back for over 20 years. $52,000 paid to my abuser and rapist to take care of children that he lied to get. But now I am released to know that I can help other women to listen to your inner voice. And if it guides you to do something, do it. If it says don't do something, don't do it. No matter what other people tell you, because what other people tell you is for them, not for you. They might think you're better interests, but not necessarily. So my whole thing is that I do have I have a podcast where I'm looking for guests to be speaker of their story of chronic pain and chronic fatigue. And it's geared towards women because predominantly women are the ones with fibromyalgia due to stressors, triggers. Those are a main point. And then there's some that also are autoimmune based. So I love to work with women who have chronic pain, chronic fatigue syndrome to be able to get a gainful work environment for them that's productive. My other big thing is accountability and goal setting. So I have a program for accountability and goal setting. It's just a base thing, as well as a self-love diary that I have I'm gifting to people. I've been suggested to put it on sale, but I'm not there yet. I'd rather it to help people than to put a dent in a pocketbook as of yet. I also do a 15-minute coaching call to see if I can help in any other way with going even further in depth, helping to build a business, helping to build a setting that's productive for you. So feel free to reach out to me at scarlo.folsom@gmail.com. And I do believe I need to spell that out because I have a feeling it's always done wrong in caption. So it's SCARLO.FOLSOM@gmail.com. And I can put it down into the description as well, so that you can reach out to me. You can also message me in any of my public groups. I have, you can find me fibro.recovery.specialist, and that's in Instagram as well as Facebook. And I'm also a vegan recipe for life on Facebook. That's my primary page, and feel free to reach out to me there. I'm also vegan recipe for life on Pinterest as well as on Instagram, I believe. Anyhow, I would love to connect with you at any time. If this resonates with you, I'd like you to go on ahead and comment me. Any part of this, if it resonates with you, comment me and let me know. I look forward to being able to connect with you in the future. I will be going live weekly with new things, new ideas, new creation of situation with chronic pain and chronic fatigue syndrome. But I wanted to start out with first sharing my story and the backdrop and what I do in general. So until next time, have a blessed day. Take care.